Fat stacks. That's roughly the amount of money that I lost on NIO and Xpeng stock today. We had a major day of losses and a major day in the red on these EV stocks. You know, there's been a little bit of worry that EV stocks are going to be dropping because of the delisting by the United States. Basically, they're basically saying, hey, we've got this bill that's going through the Senate that needs to be passed, and if it does pass, they could potentially be delisted if the Chinese companies are not willing to go through with the audit process that the United States is going to require should this bill pass. So I don't think that's going to happen. Meet Kevin actually made a great video breakdown of this exact process and the very low likelihood that that could actually happen, even if they do end up passing this. But what I want to talk about here today is the massive red day that we experienced on NIO, Xpeng, Li, all of these other stocks, and just what we saw happen today. So if you're a fan of electric vehicle companies and you're an investor in these companies, you probably noticed that Tesla's been on a huge run lately, and these other EV companies, especially the Chinese companies, have had a major pullback in the last couple of days. After having some meteoric runs over the past couple of weeks, it's finally that time where we're going to see some pullback in these stocks. And I think that's actually a really healthy thing. I think that these companies have been, their share price has just gone up so far that it completely blows the fundamentals out of the water. And it basically just turns into a giant FOMO event where people are just jumping in, a lot of traders, a lot of speculators just trying to, basically shortcut the next guy to take a little profit on the back end, take a little profit until finally it runs up so far and eventually has to pull back like it has today. Xpeng saw some massive pullback. NIO saw a pullback. Li saw a pullback. A lot of these companies saw a major pullback today. And we're going to talk about the stock here on the chart in just a second. But before we do that, I actually want to talk about some other news that was kind of overshadowed by the massive pullback that these EV companies saw. I want to actually report vehicle delivery numbers for Xpeng and NIO for the month of November. So Xpeng delivered 4,224 vehicles in November compared to 3,040 in October. Now, I was looking at some news articles based on this information that they were reporting, and they said, hey, this is a massive gain, like 300% year over year, but I don't really want to look at year over year. This is such a baby company in the grand scheme of things that looking year over year, it's like, of course, they're going to have massive gains when you look at it like that. The important thing is how much is this increasing per month, and then also take, like a 3 to 6 month span and look at what that's actually causing as well. When you look at it this way, you actually get a much better picture, at least in my opinion, about how the company is doing and how they're improving month over month. Now, of course, from 1 month, they could have, just an anomaly where they have extra deliveries. Maybe the next month they have an anomaly where they, run into a supply chain hiccup or something and don't have as many. But if you look at like a 3 to 6 month span, you're going to get a better picture of the company overall. So looking at this and realizing, hey, they actually delivered almost 1,200 more vehicles in November than they did in October. This is actually a huge number, and this is a huge increase. When you think about that, that's like a 25% gain, I think, just in those vehicle numbers. So this is actually showing that Xpeng has the production capacity to continue growing, to continue delivering vehicles, and most importantly, to continue selling those vehicles. So I think the company is growing, and I think they're going to see future growth. But if you're buying into the stock right now, you need to be careful because it's going through this massive pullback and it's coming back down to these realistic fundamental levels. The other thing I want to talk about with NIO is a little bit in the same boat, but not quite as good of numbers. NIO delivered 5,291 vehicles compared to 5,055 vehicles in October of 2020. So only, like a 200 vehicle increase there, 240, give or take. So not that many more deliveries for NIO, but that's still something that, is worth looking at and looking at and saying, they're on the increase, they're on the right path. They're getting those deliveries out there, and they're continuing to grow as a company. So I think NIO actually has some really cool benefits. I think Xpeng has some cool benefits. As far as like which company is better, I don't know. I really like them both. I think that NIO probably has a little bit more exposure and probably has a little bit more of a head start, but I think that Xpeng is really going to be like right there behind them. I think the P7, their sedan, is actually a really cool looking car, and it's more on the affordable side, whereas NIO is only producing more of these like SUV and crossover type cars right now. I don't think that they have as much exposure to the market, even though those are really popular in China. I think that with the higher price tag, they're just not able to break into as much of a market with their vehicles. So I'm really excited for NIO Day, which is coming up on January 9th, where they're actually supposed to release their flagship sedan. It's going to be a concept car for what they're going to have as their flagship sedan, and I think it's actually going to be really exciting to see that. I've seen some renderings or concepts on just doing a Google search, and They've got a really cool car, and I think that NIO will actually produce something that's very similar to that. So I think I'm really excited about NIO Day. I think that's going to be a big day for them, and I've actually bought some call options on NIO for this exact circumstance. So I think that the stock will pull back. I think it'll probably hit to like that low $40 mark at the lowest. I think there's some support lines there, but I would be surprised to see it drop lower. If it does, I'm definitely a buyer. I'd definitely love to buy in back in the $30 range, 35, even high 30s. I'd be okay with that. Same thing with Xpeng. I'd kind of nibble in and buy a little bit if it did drop that low. So anyway, with that being said, let's jump into the chart here and take a look at what actually happened today. All right, guys. So as we jump into the chart here, you can see that NIO has seen a massive pullback today. I mean, just a couple days ago, looking at the 25th of November, it looks like it was at $57 as the high here, and now it's sitting at $45.36 after hours, sitting even a little bit lower, $44.15 actually. It's down another 2.5%. So you can see that they've had this major run up over the last couple months. I mean, even if you go to like the full 3-month chart here, it's pretty crazy to see what has happened over this last little bit. That's not the 3-month chart. Let's pull this up here. So I mean, just look at this massive growth, right? It was like sitting in the $18 mark, 18, 19. I bought a lot of shares getting in at this price, and it was kind of just sitting flat at here at 21, and then boom, right here it just took off, jumping up to $27, give or take, and then kind of settled back down. And then from there, it's just been a wild ride all the way here to the top. So of course, when you see massive runs like this in just a couple of months, you're going to see this pullback. So I think even the fact that it's still here at $45 is actually pretty phenomenal. I think if we actually zoom in here, you can see there's a couple of support lines. You've got a little bit of support here at $41, another one here at $44, and another one here at $45. So I think that the stock, I don't know, is it going to bust through that? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised that if it kind of just levels out and stays at this $40 mark, like I said earlier in the video. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. If it does bust through that, I'm going to be buying. Right now, I'm not buying. It's hard for me to get into this just because I did have the opportunity of actually buying in way earlier at like 18, 19, 20 bucks a share. So it's hard for me to buy in at this amount, but I do think that the company has some long-term growth. So if you are buying into this, just be a little bit careful. Wait for this pullback to fully complete. Maybe go stagnant for a day or two before buying in, and try to buy on a red day, of course, as well. Let's jump over to Xpeng and see what it looks like over here. So again, the same thing. I mean, down to $52. This one hit a high of almost $75 here on November 14th. Just absolutely crazy, right? Jumped up. I did not expect it going that high. This one, was sitting literally, like, you come back here, it's sitting at like 20 bucks. I bought into this at like it was somewhere in this $19.60 range, and it actually had dropped down, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is going to come back. I don't know. It was still kind of in that time when these stocks, these companies were looking a little uncertain. And I was looking at this like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And then boom, it just exploded. So same exact thing as NIO, kind of shot up to like 35, settled down for a minute, and then it's just been this wild ride all the way up to 75. And now we've got the pullback down here to, close the day at 52.36, but it's actually down again, just like NIO, 2.5% roughly to close after hours at just under $51 per share. So again, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Xpeng actually drops lower. I think the Xpeng could come back down to this low 40 mark as well, and I think that it still has a little bit of room before it's going to get there. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens over the next week or so. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Tesla as well. I think that Tesla will continue to see a run up. It's going to be extremely volatile. I've actually got a call option on Tesla as well that's doing pretty good so far, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next month as they get included into the S&P 500. So this chart here, I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Looking at this wild ride that we've been on. So if you're buying into this, like I said, be careful. Wait for this pullback to fully happen. I would not be buying into Xpeng right now. Wait for it to trade sideways for a couple days at least before you do, or wait for it to get back down to that support line of roughly that low $40 mark, or hopefully even a little bit lower if it does go there. So anyways, guys, with that being said, make sure to get your 3 free stocks, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how many free stocks it is with Webull. That's a platform we're using here on the laptop. This is my humble ask, right? I'm just going to ask for it. Hey, it helps you out. If you deposit $100, you're going to get some free stocks. I'm going to get some free stocks as well for being an affiliate. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, give me a thumbs up here on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, and we'll catch you in the next one.